Well, I met Shaheed when we both had offices in the United Way building. And at that time, Shaheed worked for the Boy Scouts and his office in that building. And I had an office, and I was director of a nonprofit organization called Comcare Housing. And our paths crossed. And I have two sons. One had been a former Boy Scout, and I had been a former den leader. And the second time I ran into Shaheed was when I was teaching at Kennedy Middle School. And I was the debate coach at Kennedy Middle School. And Shaheed's daughter was on the debate team. And I can't remember if it was Inman Middle School or if it was Douglas High School, but I think it was Inman Middle School. Don't remember the details. And then with Communities Alliance and the work that we did in the community and the meetings, our paths constantly crossed, even during this time. But those were some of the personal times that we shared. And I forgot when he went to work for the American Red Cross. We, would have dialogue regarding what he was doing there. So, Shaheed was a real trooper, and he lived behind my church, the Simpson Street Church of Christ right there. And he was always there when he got involved in his gardening and providing food, whether it was on the local level, whether it was on the national level, whether it was on the worldwide level. There was always Shaheed that was involved in those activities, trying to make this place a better place because he existed.
Hello, my name is Tony Torrance. I am president of Community Improvement Association, co-chair of the Pot Creek Stewardship Council, and I'm here today to talk about Shaheed and more DuBois. The history about Mr. Shaheed DuBois, this man is a real legend and giant in our community. He's been working with the Pot Creek Stewardship Council for over 5 years. He's been involved in a number of different community nonprofit organizations, at least over 100 that we know of. All the work he did in the Vine City, English Avenue community, the whole Pot Creek watershed. Mr. Shaheed was a true steward. He was a part of this. He was a part of the planning, the acquisition, the design process, the whole nine. He's a true legend in our community. He actually did a lot of work with kids too in the neighborhood. Community outreach engagement, Boy Scout, Girl Scout clubs. Shaheed was involved in everything, and we truly do miss him. If it wasn't for Mr. Shaheed DuBois helping us out with the Lady Street Park, he was a part of the design, the planning, community outreach engagement. He actually had contacts with more community residents than I did because he was always involved. He actually sat down and talked with people. He knew their families versus us going out in the neighborhood and just trying to figure out who are the residents, and he trying to know the family. So Shaheed was always about family. And making sure that the community benefits whatever comes in or comes out through redevelopment or development inside the neighborhood. So Shaheed, to you, from me, man, we miss you, and I'm holding my peace. Love you, man.
My name is Darrell Haddock, and I'd like to say a few words about my meeting with Shaheed. Shaheed was one of the first community contacts that I made when I started working in the Proctor Creek watershed. At that time, I believe Shaheed was working on emergency resilience in the community, and I believe he was on an emergency task force at the time. Mabel Thomas had called in a meeting of a lot of community leaders to discuss the potential for green space, and I remember Shaheed being one of the first people in the community to try to make a connection between why are we meeting about parks and green space when my agenda is around community resiliency and emergency planning. And so we sat down and we had a lot of conversations about kind of what we could do to bridge the gap between how communities are rebounding against environmental issues. And he caught on just so quickly, and his passion ignited everything that we were doing, that he brought the campaign around urban green space and green infrastructure, and he pulled it into his own campaign, and he connected us to people that I probably would have never met, he being that key contact in the community. And for that, I'll forever be grateful. I've worked in the Project Creek watershed now for over 10 years. And it was that first handshake and that first smile that he gave me that really allowed me to feel confident that I was in a community that would embrace the message that I had. And without him, I probably wouldn't have gotten far along with the work that I've been able to accomplish in Project Creek, and he will be missed.
Shaheed DuBois was a great friend, mentor, big brother, all around all-star community advocate and activist. He inspired me in so many ways. He always had an encouraging word to speak. He was always positive, no matter how bad things looked. He always served as an example for collaboration, even with people that were hard to collaborate with. And so I will always remember the work that he did. I'll always remember the investments that he made personally in other people and in the work of the community. I'll never forget what he did for the Proctor Creek Stewardship Council, for the work that he did to uplift the West Atlanta Watershed Alliance, the Boy Scouts, Vine City Civic Association, you name it. He was involved in so many meaningful causes. And he was so thoughtful in his approach to everything that he did, and his approach to working with people. And so my heart continues to go out to his family. I know that there is a huge void that just cannot be filled, and it's not just with his family, it's with the community as well.
Peace and love. My name is Abel Mabel Thomas. I'm a state representative in District 56. But my relationship with Shaheed is a long-term relationship where I was involved with his entire family, and specifically his daughter, Louise. Louise was in the program that I founded called Greater Vine City Opportunities Program, Inc. So Shaheed has been a very hard worker and committed community leader. And one of the things that I asked Shaheed was, Shaheed, what is your unanswered question in life? And he told me his unanswered question was, have I done enough? And when you think about that, that puts in perspective who Shaheed was. He was a worker for the people, selfless in terms of his work. Shaheed didn't even have to know you for him to help you. Shaheed would give people rides, that on the other side of town, I'm like, Shaheed, you don't live that way. He said, I don't care. I'll go in and make sure they get home and that type of thing. So he was a very thoughtful individual. Also, I had the opportunity to hire Shaheed to work in my office when I was city council member citywide. Shaheed was what I call my go-to man. Shaheed was a guy that I would just tell him what the assignment was, and then he would make it happen. And then I would try to go back to him and say, Shaheed, how did you pull it off? He said, look, man, you told me to do it, I did it, that's all we have to say about it. Working together, and Shaheed was, like I say, he was a rainmaker. He could make it happen. So we always said when Shaheed passed away, but he set a very powerful example of service and community service and what's expected, and he went beyond those expectations. Shaheed and family, we love you.